Dean Gozowsky with me today. He is a real estate entrepreneur here in Detroit, the metro area. More importantly, he is a husband and father, family man. So we've been connected. Well, I'm trying to think. We've trying to connect here for the last couple of weeks, and met a few months ago. I don't know, maybe 4 to 6 months ago, and just felt like we've known each other for a long time and think a lot of the same things. And I just thought it would be good to have each other sit down and just talk a little bit about what's going on in the world, and just excited to do this stuff more and bring a lot of valuable content to everyone. So let's rock and roll. Dean, take it away. Give a little bio about yourself and kind of what you do, and take it away.
All right, Dean Gozowsky, entrepreneur, real estate agent, father, husband. I've been married for going on 13 years now. Got a couple kids, a few kids. Not going to get into those details, but my first investment property in 2011. That was at the very end. Interesting story there. We actually bought a duplex. It was cash flowing. I was inspired to buy a duplex because I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and that's what that rich guy did. And I wanted to be a rich guy, so let's go ahead and let's do that. So long-term tenants, and didn't let the emotions get in the way. I just bought that property at the very last business day of 2011. We pushed to get that bad boy done so we could claim all the tax benefits. And so that was the first property. And now we're like, here we are, man. 7, 8 years later, 10, at least 20. It's like it all goes by in a blur, right?
Yeah, it does. Last 10 years have been crazy.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But that was, what we're here to do today is kind of talk about wealth cycles and just talk simple economics. I'm no guru with it, and I think you hold you're a lot stronger position, at least from a perceived my perspective there. You're somebody I look up to in the wealth cycle business, gold, silver. I mean, somebody else we can actually talk to that's got a good, valuable perspective, like a realist type perspective. Mm-hmm. Just
3 sides of the coin. Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
I'm holding it right here. Look at that.
Yeah. Hey, this is yours. This is what Dean gave me the first time I met him. Look at that.
There you go. Thanks.
Unbelievable. I brought it special for you. I love it. So thank you for this again, by the way. Yeah. That, it's one of those things. I think that, I spent a lot of my childhood, literally my childhood, people, it's cool now to be like into politics when you're a kid or whatever, because of social media or whatever. But I was literally doing that in middle school and high school back in whatever, 2000, late 90s, 2000s, and doing it on Facebook. You can probably go back and see a lot of my old crazy posts. I probably should delete a lot of those. And, and it's just, and then I stopped in 2012 actually and doing a lot of that because I realized I have to focus on myself and stop worrying about external factors so much. And it was really, what that was though, was just, I was a student of history and always have been. And that just parlayed into finance, currency history, monetary history, fiscal, policy, monetary policy, all these different things. And it just basically transformed into that over the last 10 years. The 2008 crash really kind of changed my perspective on everything. I was a senior at Michigan State, and it changed everything for me. And I'm just grateful for that in a way. And as weird as that is to say, because I just was trying to figure out, like, there's a game going on, and I want to learn this game. And it was just like anything, played hockey growing up my whole life, and it was a game, right? And this, money, currency, whatever it is, the government, all these different things, they're just a game. Business is just a game. And it was trying to figure out that game. So, this really, I think, is at the heart a lot of that, which is gold and silver, and kind of the basis of a little bit what we're going to talk about today. It's just, that's true money. People, if they Google it, you can go back before government started really meddling with stuff in the early 20th century. And it used to say those dollar bills were redeemable in gold. And that was, it always has been true money. And that's why you see gold and silver rising now. And you see crypto kind of, starting to take off, because people seek things of value. And they know inherently that dollars, paper, it's worth a cent or two, whatever it takes to print on. And it's just, as long as you and I have confidence in that thing having value, it has value until it doesn't. And people say that about gold and silver, yet we have, thousands and thousands of years of history of that always being the case. They always revert back to that, something of value. It's rare. You can't print more of it. So, that's the basis of kind of what we've been doing. I appreciate the kind words, by the way. And that's just something in the last 10 years, I've just been a student of studying that and understanding what true value is and true wealth is. And I just heard the quote the other day, but someone was saying, we know the price of everything, we know the value of nothing. And I think that's kind of the problem we find ourselves in nowadays, is we know the prices of all these things, but yet we don't know the value. And again, you can, as an analogy for a lot of things probably, but you can use that in many areas of life. But anyway, that's kind of the basis of what we kind of connected on over the last, few months, obviously. And I just thought it'd be a great idea to kind of talk about some of this. So, inflation, deflation, wealth cycles. You already touched on wealth cycles. Obviously, like you were saying off air before we got on, we were talking about, the masterclass, right? Paul Krugman, some different people, the Fed, some different things, whether it's Trump or the Fed or whoever it is, talking about inflation. They always want to be at that 2% mark, or seemingly, and kind of keeping around there. And whether that's real or not, whether we're at 2% or been at 2% deflation, it'd be interesting to see what goes forward. I mean, what are your thoughts on that and where we are in that cycle, I think, and just, in the inflation deflation cycle. And again, obviously the three sides of the coin, right? That's always, trying to be the realist. So you see the positive, the pessimistic side and optimistic side, but trying to be a realist. I think that's the most important. So, I mean, what are your thoughts on that and where we are in that cycle?
I think another way, like I mentioned to you before, I don't think I've ever used the word realist. Like, I'm a realist.
Yeah.
I like to be educated and see the different perspectives and not just see one end of the conversation. Like, one of the things that I'm leaning on right now, and I'm not going to go too far down this road, but we're starting to experience it with the government payouts, the stimulus checks. Happened back in the Obama administration, which, some people will definitely say that, hey, that helped. It helped stimulate the economy. But when you're talking about like a Keynesian type of a model where you can print money and print more money just to stimulate the economy and keep it flowing, that works. That's what's going on right now. But let me stop right there real quick and go back to the perceived value of something. Let's talk about the reason why some neighborhoods take a big dip in property value and then they rebound way quicker than others. You'll see that in waterfront properties. In the towns like Ann Arbor was definitely one of them that didn't have a problem rebounding whatsoever. We're closing on a deal here probably 2 days from now to sell a house that we just picked up over there. I've got no problem picking up another property, even a flip over there, because I'm optimistic about everybody's got money coming into the pocket from the stimulus checks. Plus the unemployment is, me for crying out loud, making $48,000 a year on unemployment. Why would you go work? I don't know.
Exactly. Yep.
There's lots of money get thrown around.
It seems like there's an agenda behind that.
Well, for sure. And I think that's where you talk about an agenda. We're probably dealing, this is our first real world example of, the Andrew Yang gang. I think we can call them that, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Universal basic income.
Yang gang.
Yang gang.
Yep.
So, like, here's your money coming in. Don't work for it. Just go ahead and stimulate the economy while we're printing more and more money. But going back to the value, okay? The value of this will never go to zero, okay? Right now it's $14, $15, okay? It's been there for 10 years? Mm-hmm. Last time it was up around 50 was,
11, 2011-ish. Yeah. Yep.
I'm waiting for it to
triple digits.
What's that?
Quadruple digits.
Well, that'd be lovely. That'd be lovely,
Well, in saying that really quick though, I joke, but it's triple digits, quadruple digits, whatever silver goes to eventually, it doesn't matter. It's like we said before, it's not price, it's value. And in terms of value, what you want to see is I'm waiting for the day that you can buy a median priced single family home for under $500 an ounce, right? If it goes down to right now, it's 17,000 ounces of silver to buy a single family median price home. I'm waiting for the day that all of a sudden those cycles reverse. Talking about wealth cycles, obviously, right? So the cycle reverses, and gold is $40 per one house, and silver is $500 an ounce or less. Maybe it's 300 ounces for a single family home. Like, that's happened before. That happened in the 80s. It's happened many times throughout history, and that's what people don't understand. And it's just a hedge. It's a hedge in knowing what cycle we're in, and what, you know, and just being smart with your investments, right? So anyway, I didn't want to interrupt you, but I think that was an important distinction to make, the value and price of things, right? So
temporary store of wealth, right?
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
So you know the value of something. I mean, you buy a new lawnmower, and there's a difference between a Lexmark or an Exmark, whatever they call them, and the Toro. You know, one can be used for commercial applications and, you know, many, many hours. The other one's just a homeowner model. Those
Right.
are not going to hold up to the abuse. But you understand the value. You're going to pay a little bit more for it, potentially. But let's go right back to the property. Where can you store your wealth? You can store your wealth in art, property, precious metals, you know, appreciating assets. One of the first financial lessons I ever learned was I went to trade school. I'm not going to call it college, but went to a trade school, learned to work on cars. And one of my roommates says to his dad, who was very, you know, he's a big fan of precious metals.
Mm-hmm.
He says, "Dad, I want to invest in a truck." And his dad says, "Boy, you can't invest in a depreciating item." Okay, that makes sense. Logged away, you know, here we go, let's move forward. So, but that's not to say you can't buy that, you know, that IROC Z that, you know, for $5,000, and it should be able, I mean, you got to know the value. And if you're getting a deal on something, take advantage of that situation. That's where you're thankful that you put yourself in a good position financially. But yeah, I mean, you look at the lakefront properties, very desirable locations, the downtown Birminghams, and all these different types of, you know, so when we're talking about real estate, I think we're at a high. I don't know that we're going to burst. Like I said, I'm optimistic. We're still buying flip houses. We're still moving forward the process, but the point is we're not going to be into these properties for more than 6 months. So I'm really not too concerned with the market shifting if it does. And if it does, great. I'm going to figure out some creative financing. And even if the banks are locked up, that means that the rest of the banks are locked up. Nobody else is buying these houses. So now the seller, if they are motivated and they have to sell, they've got no other choice but to creatively finance a deal for us. And, you know, these are all just, there's tools. When we run a coaching program out of the Real Estate Investor Club in Troy, and we're teaching these types of theories with our, theories is actually stuff that we're using on a day-to-day basis. You know, so if you ever have a coach, make sure that they're actually participating in what they're teaching, right? But inflation, let me touch on this real quick, because when we talk about, let's talk about housing. Let's stick there real quick because it's what we know. Back in, my grandma and her husband, my grandma and grandpa, bought a house in Westland in 1956, I believe. Okay, paid just under $30,000 for it, for a brand new house. Now this is all post, you know, Bretton Woods, you know, coming off the gold standard. That same house, if they actually built that house back in the 30s, probably would have been a $3,000 house. Okay, you come off the gold standard, gold's no longer backed by anything. This is the inflation talk that we're getting to right now, where slowly the prices of things creep up. Okay, that same house today that grandma bought in 1956, it's probably worth $175,000. What changed? Did the gold get buried in the backyard?
Right.
What happened?
The house really become that much more valuable than it was 30 years, 50 years ago?
So these are big questions that, you know, need to be answered, need to be dwelled on. You as an individual, anybody that's watching this, you know, dwell on this stuff. Figure out what makes sense. Some of the things that we're going to talk about today, like if you have questions about this stuff, reach out to either one of us directly. All right, we can help move you along or recommend a book or, you know, maybe a video that would help you along. But we're here to talk about wealth cycles and understand that every market's it's cyclical, right? Going up, going down. The Dow was way up. hit a little bit of a dip. We don't know. I mean, where's it going to go next? So what are your thoughts about deflation and some of the deflation items that we're experiencing right now?
Yeah.
Deflation? Yeah.
So, I mean, deflation is obviously a contraction of the currency supply. So it's people hoarding things. And, for anyone, because inflation is more like what you just explained was always easier for me to understand. And deflation was always harder for me to understand in the last 10 years. It took me years to kind of grasp it. And so deflation is a contraction of the currency supply. Everyone kind of understands inflation for the most part, but deflation is everyone is scared. They're hiding their money under the mattress. Well, currency, I should say. They're hiding their currency under the mattress, and they're maybe bank runs. They're pulling, currency out. They're just scared. They're not spending anything. They're cutting expenses. I shouldn't say Amazon Prime memberships going away, but there are other miscellaneous memberships and recurring services are maybe going away because they're just cutting stuff, and that's deflationary. That's less GDP. That is just a slowing contraction of the economy, and things aren't happening. And when that happens, obviously it cascades, because then the guy down the road, the restaurant owner's not getting paid, and he can't pay his employees as much, and he has to, so it just cascades throughout the economy, and that's where deflation is the scariest thing in the world for government and politicians and the Fed, because it's them losing their jobs. And in inflation, it seemingly you have the wealth effect where everyone seems like we're getting richer. We're getting, just like the house thing you just explained earlier. You seem like you're getting wealthier, but it's really just the dollar losing its purchasing power. That's why it takes more of those dollars to purchase the same exact house. And so it's always going to be inflation. I think Ben Bernanke, who was our chairman of the Fed for, throughout I'm trying to think, end of the Bush years or most of the Bush years, and then through Obama, half of the Obama years, he wrote a paper in the 2000s. It was something to the effect of deflation, why it won't happen here. And it was basically the foundation of what the Fed is doing and will continue to do, which is printing money, expanding their balance sheet, which is buying assets away from you and I on the open market, so bidding them up and taking them away, stealing them away from us. And they are going to do everything they can. They're scared of as all get out of deflation. They want to get into more inflation to go back to what you said earlier, to keep that 2% number or 2.5%, whatever it might be, inflation number. And they want to get away from deflation and make people feel good about the economy, to get people back out into the world, buying things, take the money, the currency out of their under the mattress, go buy something with it. So that's what deflation is. It's the economy contracting, and they do not want that. They want everything to be like, go buy stuff, go, use that currency and go get the economy going. They think, wrongly, that more currency, that Keynesian philosophy is more currency in the system is what will generate people feeling good and want to go produce things, which in reality, or consume things, which in reality, we can see that that's not what happens. When things happen, people get scared. And what happens is value must be created. Currency only comes into existence because of value happening in a worthy exchange between two people. Right. Yeah, and it's so currency, and again, history has shown this over and over again, just flooding currency into the market isn't going to do anything. The other day I was talking to somebody, and it was just like, you had to make it relate. Like when you were a kid, you collected baseball cards or hockey cards or whatever it was, or maybe a girl collects, diamond rings or whatever it might be, something that you collected. But when everyone in the world has that thing, how valuable is that thing anymore, right? It's not that valuable. If I have a Babe Ruth rookie card signed and everyone in the world has one, that becomes very it's not invaluable. There's no value to it, right?
Sure, and that's the part that I don't get about when you're giving everybody, I don't even know what the stimulus checks are or what they were.
Yeah, $1,200 per adult, I believe, and $500 per kid, I think, right?
Okay,
yeah.
Got it. So you've got, call it 3 kids, 2, married, based off your tax returns, you're going to get roughly $4,000.
Yes.
If you're, that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm right about that. Exactly.
What are you going to do with that money? I mean, if you've taken care of your finances all up until this point, I mean, I get it. If somebody is going to, they've been living paycheck to paycheck, yes, that's good. They can pay their bills. Are they going to go ahead and buy frivolous items or, new boats or
exactly
whatever? That's so, I mean, I can see how it gives a bit of, boost to the economy. And also I can understand that Okay, everybody's laid off from their jobs. They're making good money on unemployment, right? They're definitely above the poverty level. I think the poverty level is what, 25 grand?
Yeah, it's right
Right?
around that. Yeah, right around there.
Now you're basically double that.
Right.
You can go ahead and
Getting calls.
find life on that.
Yeah.
Your calls with you, right?
Yep.
So anyhow, keep the money flowing. People can pay their bills. They're not going to lose their houses. I think also I hope that the realtor community, at least the sphere that you're in, if you've got a realtor in your sphere, it's been explained to you that, and this is for those of you watching, the forbearance programs, like if you're able, here's my advice to people. If you're able to make your payments, make your payments. Okay. If you start putting backloading your payments to the back of the loan, it's potential that bank is going to call that loan, the rest of that money due at the end of your forbearance period. Plus, you're still missing payments. So really you got to understand your finances, right? If there's one thing we can really encourage you folks to do is understand how money works, even if it's on a very, very basic note.
Mm-hmm.
Learn how to balance your checkbook,
Yeah.
Otherwise you're going to have bad credit.
Yep.
And then you can't buy anything unless you're paying.
Yeah, know your financial statement, right?
Yeah.
You have to. That's a whole rabbit hole we get down, but just knowing most people don't even have a financial statement, and it's, where's your profit and loss statement? Where's your balance sheet? Where's your statement of cash flows? I mean, that's stuff, again, should have been taught in school and we weren't, and we can go down that rabbit hole, but that, your banker wants to know that, right? Everyone, people in real life want to know those things. They don't care what grades you got in school. They want to know what your financial statement looks like. And that's, like you just said, know your financial statements, know where you're at, know where your income coming in, your expenses going out. And that's where, again, we always hear these stats, these crazy stats of, 50, 60, 70% of the nation doesn't have $400 or $1,000 for an emergency payment. When we're seeing that, everyone's clamoring for a stimulus check. I mean, in the grand scheme of life, what is that going to do for you at the end of the day? If you're in a position where that is affecting your life that much, then you're already in tough shape, and that's just, it's hard to hear, but that's, clearly there needs to be more hard talk in the world, because we're in these positions because no one wants to have hard talks. So,
well, think of it like this. You want to talk about hard talks and just difficult things to go through in life. You've got a situation in front of you where you can sow into your future. You can delay a little bit. Like, let's give some real world application here. For those of you that have got a stimulus check coming your way, let's say it's $1,200, okay? And you're still drawing unemployment. I'm assuming you're laid off at that point.
right.
Because what are the recent stats? What, like 36% or something crazy like that? Unemployment number, or I don't know.
Yeah, I've heard, from anywhere from 20s to mid 30s, something like that. Yeah.
All right. So even if we just use 10% is an outrageous number.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
These are all the unemployment. Once we get off this shelter-in-place lockdown,
Yep.
you can call it. That's why one of the reasons why I'm optimistic for the housing to not really skip a beat too much.
Right.
It's still here. Let's keep rolling with things. But if you've got $1,200, what would you be doing with it right now? Assuming that you can be disciplined enough to play the long term, and you would delay gratification, so to speak, rather than going to buy a new TV,
right,
or a new fishing pole, or a new gun, or whatever you fancy.
Yep.
What are you doing with $1,200?
Yeah, and that's a great question. So obviously, if you absolutely need the money to pay something off, then maybe pay a little bit. But I would definitely pay myself first, and that would be in the form of, one, possibly some education and getting informed on some of these things, and being able to. It's like speaking another language. If you can educate yourself on how to speak Spanish or speak Italian or whatever it might be, then you can understand the language of currency and money and what the government's doing, and you can position yourself properly. So one would probably be education, but if you want, I love when people always say that, but it is true. It's education, number one. But number two, like an actual thing to go out and purchase would probably be silver right now, or possibly crypto. And I'm not super, super well versed in the crypto space. I know a decent amount, but it would be some type of hedging asset and it would probably be silver right now, just because that's the most undervalued of anything. And you could get into oil, I guess, something like that. But silver, everyone can do it. Like you said earlier, it's 15, 20 bucks. Everyone can start getting into it now, right this second, with the click of a button, and start hedging yourself for what's coming. So I would take that currency and go purchase something of value like silver. Everyone can do it. So that's what I would be doing right this second if I was, in a position where I had to make a change in my life. So
just a little bit at a time. I mean, you don't have to
exactly.
Tens of thousands of dollars right now. There's also places where, like, take silver out of the mix. There's companies out there, and they usually have a minimum buy-in, but you can actually invest in real estate without actually, don't think like real estate investment trust, because all that's that's in the stock market.
Right. It's paper still. Yeah.
Sure, it's still paper, but there's companies out there and people out there that are building up funds that are raising down payments to purchase properties, big apartment buildings, and they're offering a decent amount of return. Okay. So maybe you don't have enough money to buy, a regular rental house,
mm-hmm.
which in all actuality, you being in real estate, us being in real estate, you can buy a house, a rental property. If you don't own a primary residence, you can go into a FHA type of a deal, get creative with your lender, figure out that. You still got to live in it if it's an FHA. That's what the rules say. Okay. But you can get into a house for 20% down, $100,000 house, you got to figure out a way to come up with 20 grand. You can do seller carryback.
Yeah, exactly.
Which basically is a fancy way of saying you can have the seller contribute down payment towards your bottom line. And some banks out there, you can get into a house for, 4 or 5 grand.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you have a management company that's going to go ahead and manage that property for you.
Yep.
And put 200, so you basically just turn that $5,000 into $250 a month positive cash flow.
Yep.
There's
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I think those are, like we said, education, maybe getting silver, or a creative real estate deal. I mean, those are probably my 3 top things that right now I would do with that, whether it's, $3,400 or whatever money you're getting from how many people are in your family, just depending. You could, like you said, could be nothing down with a creative deal, or could be a couple $1,000s down. And like you said, that literally is a leverage play into $200,000 eventually, a tenant paying that down for you eventually, or whatever it may be. So yeah, I couldn't agree more. One scary road I want to talk about quick, and again, we talked about the positive side and the pessimistic side, and being the realist in the middle, obviously taking both sides. There's obviously some different stuff with, supply chain and what are your thoughts on, it could be, everything from, hey, we go back to work and everything ends up being fine. And it's more of a U-shaped recovery. It takes a little bit longer, but everything ends up being fine. A lot of people get reemployed. Or the pessimistic side is, hey, we've got, credit seizing up eventually. We already had stuff in the repo market. I mean, the crash started really in September and in October in the repo, in the paper, in the corporate world, in really behind the scenes. It's the markets that people don't watch generally. And that's what was happening. So credit could seize up eventually. That means, the cascading effect, gas isn't coming out of the pump. There's no food at the stores. And that's the pessimistic side. And there's both sides. And we're somewhere in the middle there. What are your thoughts just on, the length? And again, no one really knows, but like, what are your thoughts on just the length of this? I know you're thinking, hey, I think we will come back fine. And again, things are regional too, as well. It's not just national, where different cities, different areas will be better than others for sure. Like we saw 10 years ago. But I mean, the length of what happens, because my quick thing is, I think that we're going to see issues, we're going to see foreclosures, we're going to see stuff, but it's going to take a year or two. What are your thoughts on that? Just kind of timing and just the lasting effects of it.
Well, so I'm optimistic about it,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep.
I really am taking that angle, the optimism.
Mm-hmm.
Do I expect the market to crash or adjust? Truth be told, it already has. Yeah, like you just said, there's some markets, East Point, for example. East Point takes a longer time to ramp up its spring market. For example, I've got a house that's, getting finished up over there. And that place is like maybe November when I did the comps, that was $135,000 to $140,000 house. Right now, it's a 125 to 130 all day long, and I can't, that's just what it is. Yes, every area is a little bit different, so you got to be able to look at it from the macro perspective. But like the nation as a whole, I think that the whole stimulus thing, there's really something there. People are going to be able to make their payments. The ones that may be in trouble would be the absentee owners or the landlords, because you've got some folks that have not paid their rent. Okay, I'm sure you know the landlords out there that have only collected a third of their rent last month. This month we don't know yet because it hasn't, or rather May.
May, come soon. Yeah.
But let's assume that that's probably going to be the same, just because people hear, hey, you can miss a payment. Okay, I'm going to miss a payment then. Well,
right.
Eviction's coming. First of the month is here. Rent's due. And I understand we can't necessarily evict you from a landlord standpoint in Wayne County. I'm not sure what it is in Oakland County, but fortunately, my people are making payments, and I appreciate that. But still, if you haven't made a payment, how does that affect the rest of, the population that are landlords? So, tenant gets evicted eventually because they're not going to. They didn't save that money to make that payment.
Right.
Are foregoing the payment, so you're just delaying the inevitable. Think of it like this. Filter it through a brain cell. Okay, that will stop a portion of the economy. So if you can't, if the landlords are tired or they're just not running, they're living. Let's assume that they're living paycheck to paycheck like the majority of the population. You mentioned it earlier, where people don't even have an emergency fund. They only have $1,000 in savings. Everybody's living off of credit card money. And a landlord's not running a proper business. They don't even probably have their security deposits in its own, specified bank account. Now you get in a situation where nobody's paying their bills. Now you lose that. That's from an investor standpoint, that's where we're hitting. We're mailing those people right there. Like, hey, time to sell your house. And if your tenants aren't paying, bring them on out,
Absolutely.
But I think, again, people are making money or being given money. Inflation's going to take over, right? Even if it's at 2% per year, it's just over. And who knows if the Fed is, factoring that in with, all the money that they printed, if it's still going to be 2% or if those are the masked numbers that we're dealing with. But
right.
Here's a thought. If you're looking at investing in real estate and you are able to figure out a way to creatively finance and do buy a rental property with zero money out of pocket, okay, it can be done. It's called seller financing. Like I said, right now banks are lending, but some of them aren't. Some of them have really, really high credit scores, standards. But think of this, okay? You can find somebody who's motivated enough to sell. Maybe their tenants aren't paying. It might cost you $1,000 for a eviction attorney to go through and evict that tenant because they haven't paid once that cap's lifted off of us. You now have a property that you can use a management company, so you don't have to be the landlord. I hear it. Everybody's out there, they're like, I don't want to be a landlord. Okay, neither do I. I sold my properties. I got 2 doors left. But it's very easy to manage. You have a management company, they'll take their cut. That's a business expense. Pretty sure you can figure out a way to write that off, along with your depreciation and your taxes and everything else. You figure out the seller financing, zero out of pocket, and then you've got a loan on that property. You have some equity, potentially, if you just leave it with the, with that seller, and you're paying them off over that 30-year period, or a bank, maybe you season it for a period of time, and you've got equity, and you basically can take it over, and you still have a payment with bank. That's the point. Your tenants are paying that money off for you. They're paying that loan down for you. Sure, you can have some vacancy, but that's why you got to run it like a business, run it like an actual business. Next thing you know, if you capitalize on this properly, and here's where the shifts in the wealth cycles are at. You understand when something's undervalued, okay, like right now, $15 an ounce, okay? let's talk about the crash back in, we came out of the crash, 2011. I heard of a house. I don't know who the buyer was, but I heard of a house that was purchased for $15,000. Okay. Needed a little bit of rehab, $23,000. That buyer was all in. Okay. That house recently sold for $75,000. And that was 4 years later. Pretty good return, right?
Yep.
So if you can just think about this stuff, now we're maybe at the peak of the market, the whole cruise ship theory, when are you going to catch the U-turn? Point is, if you're thinking about something, you're educating yourself about something, take action and move. Whether it's stocks or, right now stocks, there's a big sale. Take a look at the transportation stocks. Nobody's traveling right now. I bet you once the revenue starts flowing again, probably going to report some profits and that stock price might go up. But again, I'm no expert on the stock market.
Right. Yeah, I agree though. I agree. Yeah.
Right.
Well, to your larger point, it's finding what's undervalued, right? And it's finding what's undervalued and doing your homework, whether it's stocks or different companies in the stock market or rental real estate, silver, whatever it is, crypto, and finding what's undervalued and being able to parlay that into hedge at the very least or more wealth. So yeah, no, that's huge. I appreciate you bringing that up because that's it's just important. It's important. And like I said, the whole kind of basis of this is just wealth cycles and finding out what is at the bottom and then writing that up. And it's the valuation channel that most people get stuck in, is that, just riding one class up and down all the time. And I think they say the stock market has returned 8%, that's like, yeah, that's through history, only 8%, and that's you, but you could ride it up and make, hundreds of percent and then jump out and go into an undervalued class and make hundreds and thousands of percents again, and then keep riding that up and up and up and never really go down. Like you said, you go in tranches and you might hit some downs, but in general, if you hit 70-80% of those ups and you only hit 20% of the downs, those are pretty good wins. So
well, the point is that you're moving forward, you're taking some action rather than just waiting on. This is what a lot of people are doing. They're just waiting for the government to send them their check. And think of this, if everybody's getting that money, it doesn't make the money, it makes actually the money worth less.
Exactly.
Because everybody's got that same purchasing power now. So then now we're experiencing some deflation. Gas prices are what? $1.
Yep.
$1.09.
Yep.
What I saw yesterday.
Yep.
No, those aren't Canadian prices. We actually pay that for a gallon, folks. It's crazy stuff.
It's crazy.
There. I don't know.
It's crazy. Yeah, but no, you come up with something really important, that it's, using, finding those things of value when everyone's getting tons of currency printed them. Like we said earlier, it's when everyone has that same baseball card, it's not worth that much. You're printing more and more of it. That will come home to roost at some point. We're basically purchasing buying power and wealth out of the future and bringing it back here now. And eventually that doesn't end well. Like maybe it's now, maybe it's in a year from now, maybe it's 10 years from now. I don't know. Maybe it's, who knows, but that has to be positioned properly. And yes, getting rental real estate or something to cash flow now, but something also to hedge yourself, some type of insurance is huge, because we don't know when that day is coming. And I think that's what's important. And same thing, we talked about this too already a little bit, but telling the people you're working with, your investors, your lenders, your clients, a lot of them don't study these things, and it's people who do, it's their job to then go inform and educate those around them. And like you said in the beginning, to become the leaders in the new economy, people that can be trusted. And hey, been saying these things for years. It quite honestly, it hurts you at a lot of points to say those things, because people are like, well, I'm not doing anything then, or I'm not doing that now. And it hurts, but you want to do what's right more than what's, expedient at the time. Right. And it pays dividends later on. I think that's something that we already kind of touched on a little bit, and you've been doing for years now. And we've been doing is just kind of telling people, hey, this is what it is. Get ready in some way, shape, or fashion. So
it takes some action. Fear right now, we're experiencing it firsthand. look at the toilet paper shortage. Okay. Right. Why was it toilet paper? Why did you guys go after toilet paper first? I went, when I was going through I did a video like, look, here's your taste of socialism because you're going to get your
Yep.
toilet paper rations.
Yeah, I remember you doing that video. Yeah.
You know,
Yep.
people were just, the shelves were clean. Now we had canned goods, we had rice, we had beans. It wasn't until about a week later where people just thought like, oh wait, I gotta actually eat food to wipe my butt, you know,
Yep.
rather than just getting a bidet or whatever, you know. So
Yeah.
you actually gotta have food. Now, let's go down this road real quick. What happens? We kind of experience it here in Michigan firsthand. You can't leave your house. Right now, you can't go into a public place. And I think my understanding is that if you go into a public place right now, you got to have a mask on. Okay? Like, those are the rules. Government's telling you what you can and can't do. And I'm not going down the road of like, hey, you know, it's for best health of everybody and all that jazz.
Yep.
Again, I think we got different extremes, and there's people that are jockeying for position here, and like who's right, who's not, and everybody's gonna, you know, whoever can yell the loudest is gonna be the one that wins the battle, but you're still not gonna change the other person's mind. So let's find some common ground here. But I think here's some common ground that we can all agree on. Okay, and here's our snippet for the promotional video. Here's what we can all agree on: is that it's our duty to take care of our families. Okay? It's our job to protect our family. You got to, and like, that's why so many people freaked out about you can't go buy seeds right now. Well, it's the beginning of the growing season. You're telling me what I can't do? I can't go, I mean, we could find seeds, right?
Right.
But the fact that the government told you couldn't do something. Oh, no, well, just wait. The government's going to provide for you. Just hang on. The money's coming. Just wait for it.
Yep.
In the meantime, live off that credit card.
Yep.
Think
I know,
about
it
that.
should be a huge wake-up call.
You know,
Should be a huge wake-up
you
call.
have to have a permit to have a garden.
Yeah.
If you want to grow food, you got to have a permit. You want to have a cow on your, I mean, they already do this. You know, like maybe, I know Ann Arbor, you can actually have 2 chickens in your yard. And a little source of protein in those eggs, man. And plus, chickens, when they're done producing, they taste great.
Oh, isn't that the truth?
You got to provide for your family, man. That's what we're talking about here. You know, figure out a way, food. You know, don't hoard. Like, for the love of God, do not hoard things that you're not going to use, or do not stock up on things that you're not going to use. Like those, like if you don't eat pinto beans, don't buy pinto beans. You know what I discovered? You know, through this whole mix, I really enjoy canned pineapple.
So good. 100%.
There you go.
Yep. 100%. No, it blows me away though. I mean, that people they're still, you know, hoarding and things are bought out. It's just like we're over a month into this, and people still are, like you said, are you hoarding things you're not even using? Like, what's going on here? You know, and it's just total lack of preparedness and dependence. Really, and we talked about this pre-show, just lack of independence and just being able to depend on yourself and having to depend on the government. We've been trained for 100 years now to depend on the government for everything in our lives. And it really is the opposite of how we were founded. And it was self-reliance, and now it's reliance on government. And is that a fun way to live? I mean, everyone has to decide which way is more fun to live, you know, begging and pleading for government to, you know, give you what you need, or just go take care of it yourself and be prepared for whatever comes at you in life. You know, I mean, that's something each person individually in their heart has to decide and then go act on. That's all it is. So
yeah,
good stuff, man. Is anything else you want to touch on at all? Or I think we've given a lot of just, you know, action items and things people can do, from whether it's real estate to getting prepared to, you know, buying silver, whatever it is. And we've given a lot of just different action items. This is obviously the world that we live in all the time, fortunately. And I feel blessed that we can do stuff like this and, you know, get together, but also we get to study the stuff and live it all the time and be prepared, because that's kind of what we do. So, but yeah, any last words or anything else you can think of? Any parting wisdom?
Surely. Take a look at your education, okay? I'm not talking about going to college unless it's something you want to do, okay? take an opportunity. Like right now, I'm part of a mastermind, and one of my goals for this year is to be purposeful with my mornings. Okay, what's that mean? I don't know. Until you can clearly define what that means, you're not going to make any progress. So here's what that looks like for me. Get up, 7 a.m. Okay, some people get up earlier. Okay, but I was like genuinely into the habit of, getting out of bed at 8:30, 9 o'clock. It's a life that I wanted to live at that particular point. Now let's get purposeful. Get up at 7 a.m. Figure out a way to improve yourself. Okay, don't just get up, go take a nap on the living room floor because it's so strenuous. You're not used to it. But once we can set an alarm in another room, get up, get out, and then for me, spend time in the Word. Okay, you talk about gold and silver. 2 Chronicles, man, the very beginning of that book, King Solomon, okay, King David's son, who then took over the throne, had good relationships. Here's something to learn right here. This is gold, so to speak. Had good relationships, brought in all that cedar from all those surrounding communities, built a throne room for God, and then he lined the walls with gold. Now, he didn't make gold sheets, I don't envision, but he here's gold decorations. Here's gold. And his place was huge. He had these cherubs, these wings had 7.5 foot, basically 30-foot wingspan. There was 2 of them that were just joined up like this, 30-foot wingspan, all gold. That's a wealthy dude right there.
Yeah, he was a wealthy dude.
Yeah. So, spending some time in the Word, that's my purposeful is what I'm doing in the morning. Then I'm digging into this master class. All right, I'm figuring out ways to become a little bit more entertaining. For those of you that haven't seen my disappearing coin trick, it didn't work out, but it's on YouTube. So I did that.
I love your videos.
My trickery, my Penn and Teller trickery and stuff like that. I'm working on my juggling. Okay, I'm coming out of this. There's another investor out there. He's sent a picture, posted a picture on Facebook of his little workout gym under his gazebo, and he says, "I'm coming out of this quarantine swole." I'm like, well, I still want to be able to use the toilet paper so I can reach it. I don't need my arms that big, but the idea is that I want to be able to come out with something. One of my dreams, I want to play the guitar. I'm not there yet, but I'd like to learn how to play the guitar so I can be entertaining. And the more entertaining that you can be, the better stories that you can tell, which again is one of the keys why I'm going through this master class. The Steve Martin one is gold, by the way, on this.
Is it?
Yeah,
I had to check that one out.
Entertaining guy. Plus, he's not raunchy, and that's not really something that I'm.
That's awesome.
Not like Richard Pryor type stuff.
Right.
That's
right.
Comedy that
is awesome
in your life, and so being purposeful with the morning. Figure out a way to grab hold of your life because there's no time like the present. I mean, we're coming into a new season. Figure out something that you want to thrive through.
Absolutely. Fourth turning, I think you just hit on something there too. I think that was huge. And we're coming into a new season, and it's if anyone studied the Kondraty of wave, I mean it's kind of analogous of what it's Kondraty of wave is he's a Russian right here actually. You got check this book out, The Fourth Turning, and it's actually, so the subtitle is What the Cycles of History Tell Us About America's Next Rendezvous with Destiny. And it's about, I think it was a Russian scientist, and he basically just would study life cycles, and everything kind of went through this spring, summer, fall, winter, spring, summer, everything in life goes through that. Economic cycles, everything goes through this wave. And, historical, countries that have power, they all go through these cycles, and this, the Eastern bloc of the world has power, and then every 500 years this side of the world, it just goes back. It's really crazy when you go through and you start breaking it down. It's just laws of nature in essence, right? Laws of nature are there for a reason, and it just kind of touches on that. So you said the fourth, I thought of the fourth turning because you were saying we're going in a new season, and it really is we're going to a new season in so many ways. Obviously literally outside. We're going into a new season, but also this is really the turn of the information age right now, you know, like going from industrial age to informational. People kind of talked about it. Yeah, the last 20 years, like 2000, that was the turn. It's like it was, but it wasn't. This, it truly is. Like, you think of how many like older citizens or whoever it is, like they're on Instacart doing things they've never done before. It forced everyone to like all, you know, companies now realize I don't need half my workforce. They can be remote or they can be robots or whatever. This was the turning of that cycle of like, wow, we now know for sure, because it would have taken 10, 20, 30 or more years for that to all play out probably. And this was like, no, it's happening now. And so it's really fascinating, but a great book just about that, those waves and kind of what you go through. But, you know, I'm really appreciative of you saying that, because I think that's huge for people to hear, though, also. It's just your morning, getting your morning right, whether it's, you know, you're up at 4 or 5 a.m. or you're up at 7 or 8 or whatever it is, getting your mind right and the economy between the ears and taking care of that, because that's the number one thing that any of us have is your greatest asset is your mind. So I'm glad that you said that.
One more thing to touch on, and you know, I'm not going all 5G on you, okay, because I don't completely understand that stuff. But from a personal perspective, and I've got a buddy, you know, Mark Osash, he talks about digital health. Okay, if every waking moment you get out of bed, here's why it's important to be disciplined with your day. You sleep with your phone next to your bed, it's an antenna, okay? Your body's an antenna, right? It's picking up these wavelengths, these signals. You're addicted to your phone. You know, it's just like anything else. Like people can get addicted to drugs, porn, whatever, you know?
Yep.
And you've got a situation where you're like, oh, I got to be on my phone.
Yep.
And then it's anxiety. And like, where's my phone at? Has anybody seen my phone? It's almost like I lost my keys back, you know, or lost my remote back 10, 15 years ago, you know, back the way things used to be. These things, take a personal inventory of what's got control over your life and fix it.
Yes.
Fix it, right? So one thing it was an epiphany. Realized this way back, but you know, everything I'm reading is digital. Looking at articles and watching videos. And the last time I picked up a book, aside from the Bible, right? But
it's like,
man, that's somewhat refreshing.
Yeah.
Like, shut your brain off, because it's like the internet lottery. You're picking up your phone, you're looking for the email, you're looking for the next Facebook. Who liked my post? You know, who commented? Ooh, I'm working on my social media experience, and I want to just build my community, right? I get it. It's got its pieces, but don't be defined by that.
Right.
Defined about how witty you are, and you know whose life you're sowing into, and the charities that you promote and give to, and you know the trips and the people that you serve, and man, travel the world a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Love it, man. Good stuff. And then let's give it. What do you say?
So let's do this again one of these days.
Yeah, absolutely. We absolutely will, man. I'll love to have you back on here, and it's gonna, you know, everyone hopefully keep growing, but I know you and I, let's keep growing and have a little talk again here in, you know, a few weeks or a month or so, and see what's happening. I'm really interested to see what happens in a month or so. You know, just the next 4 to 8 weeks are going to be really, you know, they're going to be really interesting to see what happens. Really, really fascinating. So I wanted to definitely get back together and talk about that, just kind of what we're seeing over the next month or two. So I think it'll be really, really important to do that for sure.
Agreed.
So appreciate you, man. Dean Gozowsky, family man, real estate entrepreneur extraordinaire. And where's my coin? The man,
there you go.
the myth, the legend. So appreciate you, man. We'll talk to you very soon.
See ya.